not sure why it's not showing up. It turned from here and turn off. I just whatever you're ready. Yep, let's do this. Keep it there. All right.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, both in the auditorium and from home live streaming. We can't thank you enough for joining us. My name is Nick Hill. I'm a graduate of the Science and Natural History Filmmaking program, which is where I first met Annie. One of the tenets, an unspoken tenet of the Science and Natural History Filmmaking program is that when you come here and you join, you become part of a family. And no one really exemplified that tenet more than Annie. If you met her, you know Annie had a way of listening to you, had a way of seeing you and welcoming you that you don't find that often in this world. So when RJ texted me in March to let me know that she had passed, shock and disbelief are do not describe how I read that text message. It just couldn't be true. It couldn't. But as the days passed on, it became apparent that it was true and that Annie had passed. There was no hesitation and there was no question amongst our group that we would do what we could to honor and celebrate the life of someone who was so special. So that is why we're here today, and on behalf of Emily, Dennis, RJ, David, myself, as well as Patty and Bob White and Annie's brother Tom, I want to welcome you all today to celebrate Annie Beth White. To start, we will have 2 readings of poetry that were both very special to Annie, read by folks who were very special to Annie. Jason Rarig and Susanna Gideon, if you please come to the stage.
Hi. First, I want to say that I haven't read this myself. I didn't want to. It's almost, yeah, that's a good point. It felt too, I want to experience it with you. So I'm going to read it. And not only am I crying, but I'm also, I was in special reading classes. And Dennis, who was a professor of mine, well, no, I'm a little slow. So if I stutter, it could either be the crying or it could be the dyslexia, whatever the hell I have. But I'm going to do my best, okay? This was written by Amy, posted on the website of Mission Wolf, where she was a volunteer for several years, and she took me to. So, sorry, I hadn't cried yet, so. It's called The Mind of the Mountain. Okay, does somebody have a tissue? Sorry. Thanks. Okay. Sorry, live streamers. Don't know how close you are. Frank, okay. I came upon a man, a lost man, astride horse. Snow flowed in rivers, and the woods cried. Fire sticks in hand. He fought against the chill. I stopped and watched, for he could not see me, could not shoot me. Skittish horse reared, but I followed. Circle after circle, we came across our own tracks. A lost man, lost in his world and mine. He needed help. Shipping. Poison professional. He had stalked along the Missouri and Milk River. Indian whiskey, his prize. We, his buffalo bait. So this is probably where it would have been helpful to read first, because I don't know how to pronounce this. Strychnine crystals? Strychnine, thank you. Strychnine crystals had warmed our bellies in liquid life, had dripped from our tongues. We had run and could not stand a shot. Like cordwood stacked along cabin walls, we waited. The Chinook melted our skins, and the mountains were lonely. The process of skinning was simple. He turned us on our backs. His knife split the skin, pointed on the chin to root of the tail. He split the hide from our legs, peeled it from our ribs, and jerked from our spines. The bones slipped out of its skin as if it were greased. In the trees, he caught my face. Raising rifles steady, he braced and froze. Ice. Sheeted his hair and cheeks. Down the sight he peered as I breathed one last long sigh. He could see my fire, the fierce green fire burning in my eyes. He saw my fire, slackened arms and bowed head, left the rifle to fall back. Along ridge, the fence line, 3 lives fled. The horse, the lost man, and I fought together. Though gun in hand, he followed where I led, and he had seen my fire and now thought like a mountain. Gates and cattle close by, a high-walled cabin, light leaped onto snowbanks ahead. I flew into the night. A a shot too late to dodge the hot slug seared into smoking flesh. I ran and could not stand. I, 3 toes, last of the last, stumbled into the blood-rendered snow, and the mountains were lonely. Fear screamed fire, burning, now dying in my eyes. He was young and full of trigger itch, he thought. He thought without me would be hunter's paradise. The mountains that I know, he was wrong. A fear screamed fire died in my eyes. At his hands, I am gone, and the mountains are lonely. The lost man had found his way out of the chill and out of the mind of the mountains.
Hello. Thank you, Emily, and Dennis, and RJ, and David, and Nick for putting this together. I had the incredible privilege of being part of Cohort 11 with Hattie. She was kind of the heart of our cohort, and I will always cherish her memories. And her laugh, and quirky humor, and love of footballs. And I remember on a trip to Colorado, where she introduced me to them. And I hope we'll be seeing some of them later on. For today, Emily asked me to read the 2 poems from Emily's favorite book. Something I Still Can't Tell You by Misha Collins. And I did prepare because I knew this is probably going to happen. So I did read them ahead of time a little bit. Morning world. This morning, for no reason, or maybe for some territorial primate reason, I felt compelled to open the front door and survey my yard and street and waking neighborhood. I stepped into the porch roof shadow with line of early sunlight cutting just across my toes. The manzanita leaves quaking to the breeze. Down the block, a banging, rolling, delivery truck door. And without thinking, I said out loud, I love you, world. My feet on the cold concrete. And suddenly, a piece of grass, not a whole blade, just a severed piece, drying in the sidewalk's sun. I walk down my jog in a mowed afternoon, and even here, in a shard of green, in a fragment of a thing that is smaller than a leaf, even here, the magic of this life. I'll miss you, Annie.
Thank you both. That was Up next, we have remarks from Dennis Egg and RJ Sindelar, representing the School of Film and Photography and the Master of Fine Arts in Science and Natural History Filmmaking.
Hi everyone, my name is RJ Sindelar, and I'm the interim director of the MFA program in Science and Natural History Filmmaking here at MSU, as many people in the room are aware. Like Annie, I'm also a graduate of the MFA program, being part of cohort 14. So you could say things have come a little bit full circle for me, ending up as the interim director of the MFA program after having been a student in it. Annie was my peer, and you could say an upperclasswoman and elder stateswoman during my time as a student in our MFA program. I firmly believe her warmth, kindness, and generosity helped me get to where I am today. As many in the room know, our MFA program takes people from the sciences, often with little or no filmmaking experience, and trains them to be filmmakers in only 3 short years. This can be somewhat daunting for new students, especially since the creative arts are subjective, so you get all sorts of feedback on the work you create. In addition, as you go through the program, you learn to navigate the professional landscape of filmmaking, from film festivals to finding funding to job applications. So lots to learn in a short amount of time. This is where Amy and her kindness, warmth, and generosity comes in. She was always willing to provide sage advice to new students in the program. Having taken many of the same classes, gone to the same film festivals, and tried to fund her own projects, Amy had been through it all before, and she was always willing to help you navigate those same sticking points. It will always be the way Amy shared this advice that will stick with me. Despite having much more experience than I did, she was always incredibly kind and warm with her thoughts. Never pushing you one way or the other, but simply providing her experienced perspective. I often had conversations with Annie about incorporating peer and professor feedback into my films, and she would often provide anecdotes on how she dealt with differing feedback in her own projects. Having someone who had navigated that before was definitely appreciated. In these moments, I was also always grateful for her time. Her generosity with her time for new students was incredible. I don't think I remember an instance where she wasn't willing to chat if she saw someone on campus, or if she saw you at a film festival. Perhaps the most meaningful thing to me was Annie's help navigating film festivals. For those here that might not know, film festivals are events where filmmakers share their work, and often more importantly, network with other filmmakers and industry professionals. As someone who tends to be shy around people he doesn't know, film festivals can be anxiety-provoking, especially larger ones with lots of industry professionals. Annie was always kind enough to make room for me in her conversations, providing a place to feel included in the hubbub of social events at these festivals. Over a few years, and with more of her advice on how to make the most of festivals, it made me feel more at ease going to them myself. I remember her to this day when I attend festivals, often on my own. So I will always cherish Annie's help navigating the world of filmmaking. She definitely played a role in me going full circle from a student to the interim director of the MFA program. Thank you, Annie. Because I was Annie's peer, I of course didn't teach or mentor her while she was in our MFA program. So I'd like to invite Dennis Egg, Professor Emeritus, former director of the MFA program, and Annie's thesis chair, to share about his time working with Annie in our program.
Thank you, RJ. Excuse me. As RJ said, I'm Dennis Egg, Professor Emeritus in the School of Film and Photography. I taught Annie and I chaired her thesis committee. I felt honored and privileged to guide her through the final MFA process. I had no doubt that she would excel. She was an outstanding student in a program filled with exceptional individuals. Great students teach their teachers, and I learned a great deal from working with Annie. I used to tease her that she was the original woman who ran with the wolves, playing off the title of the best-selling book by Clarissa Piccola Estes. In many ways, Annie embodied the instinctual and mythic archetypes central to that book. She worked with wolves and followed that up by becoming a deep-sea explorer. She was the joyous epitome of the scientist, adventurer, artist that was a goal of our MFA program from its inception. Her life and memory will inspire all people who seek the exhilarating combination of knowledge and experience. As she might say, if I can do it, so can you. She will always be with all of us.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you, RJ. Now, welcome Emily Narrow as she shares words of remembrance about Annie.
My name is Emily Narrow, and I'm a friend and colleague of Annie's. First, I want to acknowledge Annie's family, her mother, Patty, her father, Bob, and her brother, Tom. Patty and Bob unfortunately couldn't be here in person today because of health reasons, but I know they're watching at home on the live stream. Tom was able to come in last minute. Tom, I hope that you feel that we've properly honored Annie today. We all loved her so much and miss her so much. And I want to thank all three of them for giving us their blessing to hold this event. I also want to acknowledge Nick, David, RJ, and Dennis for helping put on this celebration of life for Annie. They all volunteered their time and skills to plan this event. It quite literally could not have happened without them. I'm also grateful to Jason and Susanna for reading those lovely poems, and to everyone else who contributed and helped us set up today. I've known Annie for 13 and a half years. We met in the fall of 2011 when Annie came to Bozeman to start graduate school. I had started the year before. We've been students together, we've been colleagues together, and we've been friends together. It was easy to become friends with Annie. She had a calmness and a sense of peace about her that made me suspect that she'd been a Buddhist monk in a prior life. I can honestly say that I don't ever remember a single time when she was angry, like truly angry. I might have seen her get mildly frustrated, like once or twice, but even then she usually just laughed at whatever situation we were frustrated about and then went back to being her calm, positive self. Annie was always willing to help others. I can't tell you the number of times that, as a filmmaking colleague, Annie helped me navigate some technical problem I faced. Not only did these times showcase Annie's kindness, but her patience too. There were times when I would ask Annie 2 or 3 or 4 times to teach me something that I needed a little more help with and a little more time to figure out. She never once made me feel bad for asking for her help. She was exceedingly generous and was a talented gift giver, which I think is an underrated skill. In fact, you might notice this very colorful, joyful scarf that I'm wearing here today. It was knitted by Annie. She sent it to me completely out of the blue in December 2020 as a Christmas gift. I'm proud that I get to wear it today as a demonstration of Annie's generosity. But it's also a demonstration of Annie's creative abilities. Annie was a skilled videographer, photographer, poet, and artist. She knitted, she drew, she wrote. And in her photographs and films, she used light and movement to reveal the deep affection that she had for her subjects, whether they be a gray-haired wolf, the aurora borealis, or a squat lobster sitting 3,000 meters beneath the surface of the ocean. Of course, to talk about Annie is to talk about her love of animals. Many of us know the amazing story of Amy's time with the organization Mission Wolf. After graduating from CU, she moved to Mission Wolf and worked as their wildlife biologist, education director, and wolf caretaker for 6 years. She lived in a teepee without running water while helping to care for the 40 wolves and wolf dogs at the refuge. She also traveled with Mission Wolf's Ambassador Wolf program for 2 years, bringing the boldest wolves into classrooms and museums across the country. I know many of you who knew Annie because of Mission Wolf are watching this live stream today. Please know how important you all were to Annie and how impactful that time was on her life. I've been talking with Annie's mom, Patty, a lot lately. And she had this to say about Annie's connection with animals. Annie was always a magnet for animals, as they understood her respect for each as an individual. They commanded her patience, curiosity, and love. Her boundless compassion embraced every living creature, furry, scaled, or human, with equal respect. Most folks have said Annie was a very kind and patient person. The animals usually noticed that first, too. Through her films and daily interactions, she opened minds to new perspectives, celebrated scientific discovery, and sparked empathy for the wild world she adored. She would want us to celebrate both her, as well as our beautifully complex world. Those words were from Patty, and some were from her father, Bob, as well. Thank you both for both beautifully distilling the connection that Annie had to animals and the natural world. I'm going to share 2 stories with you that I think demonstrate the joy of Annie's creativity and the depths of her kindness. In the summer of 2021, Annie was living with her parents in Spokane, and I was living here in Bozeman. And she reached out to me to ask if I would participate in an internet scavenger hunt with her. It was called GISH, the Greatest International Scavenger Hunt. She described it as a week-long virtual scavenger hunt full of creativity, chaos, and fun. People play on teams to complete weird, crazy artistic tasks, and her team needed more people, so I agreed to join. The tasks were quite creative and wild, like create the Hulk out of edible green vegetables, or recreate the Louvre's glass pyramid out of recyclable materials. These are real examples, by the way. And so you take a picture or video of your creation and upload it to your team's page on the GISH app, and your team would receive points for every creative task completed. It seemed like a lot of fun, and so I took on 1 or 2 assigned tasks and I gave it a go. And I remember the task I chose was, let's see a portrait of your favorite dog made out of bark. Okay, easy enough. I went outside, gathered some tree bark and some pine needles, and I made a halfway decent portrait of my in-laws' Shelby. Yes, thank you, David. And I submitted it. It wasn't bad, but if someone had said it looked like it was made by a 9-year-old, I wouldn't disagree with them. You know, I suppose bark is not the medium I work best in. Now, Annie loved GISH and really took the challenges seriously. The task that Annie took on was to create a portrait of actor Jensen Ackles, all out of Skittles gummies. Let me tell you what Annie did for this art piece. She hand-cut 4,500 individual gummy wedges and glued them onto a huge poster board. This thing was probably 2 feet wide by 3 feet tall. It was done in a mosaic style, as you can see here. Again, thank you, David. And the quality of the image that she created rivaled something, I feel like, that you would see amongst the ruins of Pompeii. You know, like, this is dedication right here. This is true artistic vision.
It still exists, by the way.
If you can't hear in the audience, her brother Tom is saying that it's still in existence. Yes, you cannot get rid of it. That's going to outlast all of us. But I'm glad to hear from Tom that they still have it. And I remember calling her up and just asking her, like, what compelled you to do this? And we just laughed and laughed, and to this day, my poor bark and pine needle sheltie dog just looks so underwhelming compared to Annie's masterpiece. But it just shows how even in the silliest circumstances, she had great artistic vision. It didn't matter that the medium that she was using was Skittles gummies. Annie was an artist through and through. And to tell a story about Annie's kindness, I think back to when we were colleagues. I think the most time that we spent together in the period of our lives where we truly got to know each other was between 2016 and 2021, when we both sailed on board the NOAA ship Okeanos Explorer. If you have had a conversation with Annie in the last 9 years, you probably have heard about her video work on board the Okeanos. I'll try not to bore anybody who's already heard the spiel, but the Okeanos Explorer is a NOAA ship that conducts ocean exploration expeditions around the world. A nonprofit called the Global Foundation for Ocean Exploration hired several of us wildlife filmmakers, including Annie and myself, to work on the ship as videographers and video editors. We'd be hired to go on board for an expedition, usually for about a month at a time, and we'd edit short educational and informational videos about what discoveries were being made. Some of those videos that Annie made will be shown to you later this evening. For my first expedition in the summer of 2016, I flew all the way from Bozeman to Guam. Annie, along with another video team member, Tara Smithy, picked me up in a rental car and brought me to the Okeanos Explorer for the first time. She gave me my first tour of the ship and helped train me on the equipment that I was going to be using. And after a few days, the ship left port in Guam and we got underway. I kept a journal during that time, and so the other day I dug up my journal from summer 2016. Many of the entries chronicle those days on the first Okeanos expedition I ever went on. And I found an entry about Annie, one that truly encapsulates the depths of her kindness. I'm going to read the entry from the start. I promise it gets better after the first paragraph. Good dive today. The dive went smoothly, and we saw some cool things like a chubby sea star and an unusual black coral and a bunch of eels and fish. And nothing broke. Haha. It's a little joke for you, Okeanos people. The ROV pilots collected a massive rock for a geological specimen today. We took bets on how much it weighed. It was 48 pounds. Brian Kennedy won the pool, so he got a soda and some pocky candy. There has been a booby, it's a bird, and I want to point out to all of you that I wrote literally in parentheses, it's a bird, so no one thinks that I was being vulgar in my journal. There has been a booby, it's a bird, hanging out around the ship today. And so Annie and I went up to the bridge of the ship to check it out while it sat on the flagpole. The sun was setting over the Pacific Ocean. And then she said, "I'm really glad you're here." It was just such a sweet thing to say, almost out of nowhere. It's incredible what 5 words can do to make you feel good. It really just meant a lot to me. I told her how happy I was that she was on the ship with me. I've told her repeatedly how grateful I am to her for teaching me stuff and showing me around. I'm really glad you're here. Just 5 little words that Annie said to me 9 years ago. It seems impossible that something so small can mean so much, and yet it does. Because that was the magic of Annie. She wasn't loud or grassy, but with just 5 little words, Annie made me feel like I mattered. Annie reminded me that I was loved. That is Annie's legacy. I'm sure every one of you here in this recital hall today or watching on the live stream has a moment that you can recall, an interaction that you had with Annie where she communicated to you, either explicitly or implicitly, through a hug or a smile, the following message. I'm really glad you're here. Her words encapsulate the love and affection that she had for the people around her, and I know we can all agree that we are all the better for having known her. When announcing Annie's passing, Patty and Bob wrote that they hoped that those of us who knew and cared for Annie would carry on her mission and compassion. My entreaty to each and every one of you today is to take Annie's words and share them with someone who needs to hear them. Tell a friend, a relative, a neighbor, I'm really glad you're here. It doesn't have to be word for word, but through word or action, communicate this message to someone in your life. And through that way, Annie's kindness and empathy will continue to reverberate throughout this world long after she is gone. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. That was beautiful. I think as Annie's a filmmaker, and a large portion of us are filmmakers, and we would be remiss if we didn't switch gears and go to the video portion of this celebration. First, we have a video tribute from the crew of the Okeanos Explorer and the Global Foundation for Ocean Exploration. Following, we have a selection of pre-recorded tributes from Annie's friends who could not join us here today. Following that, we have excerpts of Annie's work, including, as Emily said, some of her work from the Okeanos and an excerpt of her thesis.
Yes.
An excerpt of her thesis. All right.
Hi, this is from the Okeanos. We want to reach out to the family and friends of Annie White. She's one of our family at sea as we've been doing the exploration, and Annie and our group here have done a lot of exploring and some adventures while we were out there. And one of the key things that I remember about Annie is that winning smile, that when you met her, that smile was the first thing that hit you. And it's one of those smiles that you could tell it comes from the heart. And that was one of the key things that I remember about Annie. It's that smile that welcomes you into her life and her family and stays with you forever. So from the family here on the Okeanos to the family and friends to Annie back on shore, we want to let you guys know that we're thinking about you guys and that Annie is watching from above.
Yeah, and I had the privilege of knowing Annie for 13 years. We went to graduate school together. She was my TA, and had no idea that, like my friend from school would also become my shipmate and my sister at sea. We shared so much laughter here and so much joy and so many good times crossing the Pacific and then the Gulf of Mexico and just all over. And I see her here everywhere, from our SOPs on our computers. She actually wrote some of them to, I can envision her in her bunk, and us laughing until 1 a.m. This is kind of funny, but in 2017 we were in American Samoa, and we actually bought hangers for our lockers on the ship, and she bought blue and I bought pink, and in my locker for this cruise I actually found 2 of our hangers. So it's been really nice to have a little piece of her, and this will stay on the ship, and a piece of her will always be here at sea and with us when we go home, and with all of you too. We love Annie dearly, and we miss her a lot.
From Samoa to Mississippi and all the places that we've gone, we've had a lot of great adventures. Annie will always be part of it and part of our hearts. So we like to think about all the great times that we've had together. That helps us to get through the harder times. It's not always easy at sea, so it's always good to have fellowship with people like Annie that have come into our lives. And it's This is our last mission on the Okeanos, so it's bittersweet, but it's great to be able to have at least one more memorial with Annie while we're out here. Specific to you guys. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carrie Godwin Zonizer from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, formerly from Bothell, Washington. I met Annie in the 4th grade. Her family had just moved to Washington from Texas, and we quickly became best friends. I was drawn to her sweet personality, her infectious giggle, and her love for animals. My memories from those days include countless sleepovers, blanket forts, joint school projects, summer camps, trips with each other's families, and lots of time singing along to Disney soundtracks, especially Aladdin and the Lion King. What an incredible gift it is to have had such a special friendship. Annie and her family helped shape me into the person that I am today. She's one of the only people I've known whose passion for animals and the natural world carried through her entire life, expressing itself clearly even back when we were kids. I came across a postcard from the summer of 1993. Annie had just recently turned 13 years old and was writing about her family's trip to Montana and Wyoming. In it, she writes about a visit to the Pryor Mountain Wild Horse Range. She describes it as, quote, the best day of my life, and goes on to say, I got to get within 15 feet of a herd of horses. The stallion was chestnut with a white blaze. We got some great pictures of the herd. We went down the canyon and saw the birds and all the beautiful rock walls. I loved it. I know she went on to have so many more incredible adventures that there were undoubtedly countless more best days of her life. But the fact that seeing those wild horses at age 13 was important enough to earn that title at the time is pretty incredible. In the spirit of those soundtracks that we used to belt out at the top of our lungs, I want to close with a quote from the musical Wicked and send thanks to the universe for Annie and everything that she's meant to me. So much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now, whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Thank you.
Annie was the source of so many wonderful memories for me. One of my favorites was, it was a cold, maybe December or January Saturday in Montana, and she gave me a call and asked if I wanted to go down to Yellowstone for the day. So, of course, I said yes. We drove down, and, you know, maybe by 10 or 11 a.m., we had come across a pack of wolves in Lamar Valley. They were, of course, off in the distance, sort of taking a nap. So in our camper, we set up a spotting scope and just so we could keep an eye on them. And she kindly made me a grilled cheese and a hot chocolate, and we just sat and chatted. And, you know, as we all know, Annie was one of the most calm and best listeners as well. And so it was just a really nice late morning snack conversation, very cozy. And to me, that was one of the best summaries of Annie. It was, you know, a very inviting personality, just wanted to do something, so decided to do it and invited the people she cared about to come join, so that she could share some of her love with other people and hopefully have some of that energy rub off on people to care about the wolves as deeply as she could. But also just this idea of being warm and calm and relaxed while knowing that wolves are nearby. You know, there's no question that I think a majority of the world knew Annie in relation to wolves, and I think that's exactly how she would have wanted it. But I feel additionally special to have had some time just getting to talk to her and not being distracted by the wolves, and just seeing how warm and inviting she was just throughout my time getting to know her. This experience was by no means unique. It was emblematic of so many wonderful times I've had with her, just poking around the park, just having conversations, having a nice meal. And I feel very lucky that we got to overlap so much over the years. And yeah, I don't know. I think I'm grateful to have had the gift of her company, and for her to have infused herself so deeply with wildlife that, there's no question that any animal and environment that I spend time in will, at least on some major or minor level, remind me of Annie. And that's such a lovely thing to just sort of have in your head anytime you're anywhere in the world, and bring a sense of calm and resolve to any situation, no matter how adventurous or normal something might feel. It's just, it's just a gift. So I'm so sorry for your loss and all of our losses, but again, thank you for sharing her with us. There's no doubt she had an impact on so much of the world.
I watch the wolf walk around. Usually they'll sniff you on the go. Sometimes they'll come up and sniff your nose and say hello to see who you are. And usually when we go around a group like this, they'll come up and they'll say hi to one or two people, just like you just got a greeting.
That's the day that changed everything for me.
It's got to be quite an amazing experience to be an animal of this nature. And for the first time, be seeing this. Most schools in captivity do programs like this. Use your hands if you guys can. Yep. I want to leave it.
I'd always been intrigued by wolves, but never figured they'd take over my life.
Now, do they look like they're stressed out? This is one of the most playful we've ever seen the wolves in front of an audience.
I spent hours as a kid waiting for a glimpse of them at the zoo, but never got one. Maybe that's why I liked them. They were a mystery. I did hear them howling once in Alaska. It was incredible. And I caught hints in Yellowstone from miles away of who they might be. But from that day, that moment when the wolf looked in my eyes, there was no going back.
Hi, Annie. Are you loving the computer?
I spent that first summer giving tours to thousands of visitors, building fences, and teaching kids.
Here's a buffer in between the fences because we don't want the wolves living fence to fence with each other, because then they have to argue over who owns the fence. But when we go down here,
Along the way, I soaked up as much as I could from the founders, Kent and Tracy.
And to ask this little puppy, she's only 8 months old, to not chew on me.
They're so adept at reading body language, there are no secrets. And no one taught me that better than Maggie, Raven, and Luna, 3 homeless pups who moved in and stole my heart. The day they arrived at the refuge, all my plans for life outside of the wolves flew out the window. And before I knew it, 6 weeks turned into 6 months. Then 6 years. As the pups grew, they pulled me ever deeper into their wolfy world. Little Luna was the quintessential spoiled princess, bossing the bigger wolves around and wrapping all of us around her fuzzy little paw. Raven turned into a complete clown.
No, not the new blanket. Need the blanket or no? Yeah, you should go.
And Maggie? Maggie was my little girl. She was the sweet one, the shy one, the mischievous one. And I saw a lot of myself in her. So when Ken asked, I jumped at the chance to travel with Maggie and the other ambassadors. And we headed out to schools and museums across the country. I've never worked harder or been happier. Life on the Wolf Bus was overwhelming, but I wouldn't have traded it for anything. I spent most of the time praying I wouldn't drop a leash. But it was amazing. We were constantly on the go, doing 3 or 4 programs a day, skipping back and forth across 16 states, and talking to hundreds of thousands of people.
The kids at Shortell Middle School in Wampsville were in for a treat with no tricks today when they were visited by the traveling Mission Wolf from Colorado. Wolf naturalist Ken Weber and his assistants brought 4 of the animals onto the gym floor to meet the students.
Here with Robbie and Luna today, learning a lot about wolves on the Mission Wolf. And you know, with tomorrow being Halloween, if I hang around with them until midnight, I could just turn into the Wolf Man. Isn't this a haul? From Wampsville, Mike Price, WIXT, News Channel 9.
Okay. Okay. Got the gate? Yep. Watch the road there. Trip.
Looking back on it now, it almost feels like a dream. Like maybe it never really happened. I mean, playing in the ocean with a pack of wolves, it sounds like a fairy tale. But there we are. I'd never expected to fall in love with the wolves. I was a scientist. I was supposed to know better. But really, I never stood a chance. Don't we look majestic? Graceful? Okay, the wolves were graceful. I was just trying not to fall on my face. But we were all part of the pack. We were family. I loved living with the wolves, traveling and teaching, making a real difference. I'd found who I was and where I belonged. And whether on the road or back at the refuge, I couldn't wait to share the wolves with people. To give your heart to a wild animal.
I'll chew on you too. You're gonna like the camera.
And eventually, I couldn't do it anymore. As the wolves I grew up with slowly passed away from old age, and a new generation moved in, I didn't know how many more pieces of my heart I had left to give. So I left. I retreated into the human world to protect myself. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It's been almost 12 years since I packed up my things and drove away from them, trying to find out who I was beyond just the wolf girl. And I've made a great life for myself, traveling to the far corners of the world. But at the end of the day, I'm still the wolf girl at heart. So when people catch on that I spent 6 years sleeping in a teepee, butchering livestock, and kissing wolves on a daily basis, I love the double takes. And their first question is always one of two things. Can I do that? Or why? Usually while looking at me like I'm insane. The first answer is easy. Of course you can, if you're willing to give up everything else. As for why, they changed the way I see the world, the way I see myself. They accepted me as part of the pack and gave me a home. I doubt I'll live with the wolves again. It's time to let others be the reaper and learn the lessons the wolves have to teach. And I don't have all the answers. How I'll survive the day that my girls, my pups, aren't there anymore. But what I do know is that they're a part of me. That every time I see a wild wolf running across Yellowstone, or hear of one gunned down in a hunt, it's not just another animal. It's Maggie, or Raven, or Luna. Any one of the wolves, I've called my friends. They're not devils or angels. They're lovable, flawed, sweet, strong, incorrigible, unique beings. And in more ways than I can count, they're just like us. That knowledge, that friendship, is a gift, and I want to share. To do that, it's worth risking a few more pieces of my heart. So at every chance, I'm right back there.
I didn't get you one. Thank you. I needed no print on that thing. Yeah.
Wiping puppy prints off my camera lens.
It's a tiger thing. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
And falling in love all over again.
Joys of trying to be a filmmaker, hold the camera, and deal with Farah and Apollo at the same time.
They're always in my heart. And I know I'm in theirs too. And whenever I visit, I'm right back where I belong.
Oh, wow. That looks like one of those viper fish. Look at those teeth. That's a mean looking fish.
These are so cool. Ooh, there's a different fish.
Whoa. Oh, wow. They're going at it.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I don't know who to root for. This is, yeah, high drama in the deep sea.
Wow, look at it go.
That might be a type of barbelled dragonfish.
Wow. This shrimp is not letting go. The horror.
No, this is amazing.
Oh my gosh. It's funny, I've seen squat lobsters pick midwater fishes out of the water and start munching away. I've never seen a shrimp consume a fish like this before. Picking and picking, and the fish is still alive.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh, there was a fish inside the fish. They just pulled a fish out of the gut of the midwater
It's like a magic
fish.
trick.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow.
This is like surgical. All right, I think we might have lost our G rating.
Oh yeah, I think we did a few minutes ago. I've I've never seen that kind of predation in action before in my career. Pretty amazing.
There's a challenge for you. What is that?
I've never seen it.
Wow.
It's like a combo between a Tina skate and a sea cucumber.
Yeah, that's remarkable. That's stumping all of us here in the back row so far.
Oh, it's doubled up.
Squid.
Yeah, upside down, curled up squid.
Really wonderful imagery, yeah, so that is a squid.
There's a couple of different families that have these short-bodied squids with very long fins. The Cycloteuthid is my current guess right now. Probably the most bizarre squid I've ever seen, at least in that posture. It's not unusual to see squids with their arms folded back like that. That's a typical defensive posture, but it's so extreme on this that it doesn't even look like a squid anymore. Yeah, it's a remarkable observation. I wish I could tell you for sure what it was.
We've got a mystery here. This white thing, Shirley's going, that is not a sponge.
That does not look like a sponge to me. What the heck is that?
That's fascinating.
I think it looks like a benthic ctenophore in the genus Lyroctes.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
I've never seen anything like that anywhere.
We've seen lots of ctenophores in the water column. They look like little ovals. Well, this is an interesting group of ctenophores which is adapted to live on the substrate.
Wow. What do you think?
Another one of these anemones, maybe. Or it's a fish.
Nudibranch. Could it be
something completely different?
Could it be a gastropod? Could it be a sea slug?
But it's definitely in mollusca.
Yeah.
I like that we spanned 4 different phyla there before we just narrowed this one down.
What is that?
It's an anemone.
No, it's
and I
not.
think it's called Alicia.
Really?
Fantastic.
An anemone?
Now, I haven't seen one of these in probably over a decade, and I've only seen them like once or twice.
Wow.
Incredibly gorgeous animals, and they're extended.
Oh, I bet.
And I think they come out at night and they retract during the day.
Jeez.
Yeah, you're
Talk
right.
about a Dr. Seuss-like landscape. Wow.
Look at this. This is amazing.
That
If we could just hold the scene for a moment.
Wow.
This is Attack of the Sponges here.
You wanted sponges, Chris.
Yeah, I got them. Yeah, that's, well, okay. I got them. Wow.
So the great thing about this that I love is the way they're all oriented directly into the current. This one looks like a Muppet.
This is why sometimes I think these sponges, when you come up against something like this, you think you're on a different planet. Just so strange.
Wow. It goes on and on, too.
Every time we do these dives, all I can think about is, you know, this is the type of experience someone would have if they found like life on another planet.
What do you want to see?
You know, everything's so alien to, at least for me, even though I've been doing it for 5 years, it's still like I'm on another planet when we're down here.
Yeah, and it's definitely the same for me as well, pilot, because even though I work on these sponges, a scene like this is just extraordinary.
And I'll toss my hat in the ring too, as a person who studies echinoderms, which are even more bizarre. These things just stun me. Like a forest of the weird.
Wow, that was amazing. I think we can all agree, seeing Annie's thesis, it was amazing to hear her voice again, see her work. Her work on the ship, those were phenomenal. Really showcased how amazing the ocean is, what goes on there. And I don't know about you, but especially that first one reiterated the fact that whatever goes on there is amazing, but I have no business being there. Thank you to the crew of the Okeanos for the tribute, to friends for recording those. I don't think I'm forgetting anyone, but we have a bit of a surprise, as I think I mentioned at the beginning. Annie's brother, Tom, is here, and he has asked if he could come up and share some words about his sister, which obviously you can. It's my honor to introduce Tom to speak about his sister.
So I had no intention of doing this, but as we're going through this, and as I was going through some of these things, I was able to get access to her notes in her phone, and it came through with a couple things I think is very poignant for this group. First of all, I want to thank Emily and Nick and everybody for this wonderful tribute. As much as Annie shared the world, she was still a very private person. For example, this is the first time I've seen a glimpse of her thesis video. It's not because she's not proud of it, she 100% is. I think it's because she suspects that she always lived in the moment, and her time with the wolves was a little bit in the past when she hit the film, and she was out on the ship. And that kind of encapsulates Andy's sense of adventure, right? Going from living with the wolves to transitioning to being, and I might get this wrong, being a polywog, transitioning into the Royal Order of the Purple Porpoise. And she was full of quiet surprises, which was amazing. As a tribute to her willingness for the unknown, when I was going through things, I found this Japanese coin that she put a little ribbon through in her wallet. I've been holding it on to ever since. Sorry. And I found this note in her phone, and I don't know when it was from, but it said ship notes. And it says 23,000 miles flown, 11 flights, 3,000 miles sailed, 1 radioactive atoll, 1 endangered Hawaiian monk seal, the world's largest atoll, the deepest part of the ocean, 19,685 feet below sea level, 5,134 feet above sea level, YLAE, sorry if I mispronounced, 36 ROV dives, 48 days on the open ocean, 3 baby typhoons, 17 films made, 4 countries visited, 0 passport stamps, 3 sea turtles, 1 dolphin, innumerable sharks, new species unknown, 22 major system failures on the ship, fell down once, 1 gremlin, crossed international dateline 4 times, and the day that never ended 46 hours. I don't know what any of this means other than she traveled, she lived, and she adventured, and that's okay, it was her life and she lived it. So thanks to everybody, I appreciate it, and we all love her. So thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful and hard to follow, so I'm going to keep this brief. I want to say thank you to the MSU School of Music for the use of this recital hall and the lobby for our reception. Thank you to Josiah for running our live stream. Thank you to David for manning the tech and providing us with a smooth show. Thank you to the MSU School of Film and Photography for your support. In all of this, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't recognize Emily Narrow for everything that she did, and the work that she put in, leading us, keeping us together, all of the things, all of the texts, all of the communication, all of the work that we were not aware of as we were doing our best to help her. This literally would not have happened without her lack of hesitation and absolute dedication to making sure this happened. So thank you, Emily. Just wanted to make sure we recognize you for all your work and how much we appreciate you for doing this for Annie. Annie was clearly loved, clearly touched a lot of lives. We see that in this auditorium and those joining us via live stream all across the globe. She lived an amazing life, many different chapters. Wolves, living at sea. It's hard to describe, it's hard to pin down Annie. She will be missed, but I don't believe in goodbye. This isn't goodbye. So we'll see you again. See you again soon. See you again, Annie. With that, I think we are finished in the recital hall. Please, those of us here in attendance, join us for a reception in the lobby. We have a remembrance book we would love for you all to sign. And join us in sharing your personal memories about Annie. To those watching via live stream, thank you for joining with us. And wish you the best in remembering Annie wherever you are across the globe. Thank you.